Don't let nobody take who you naturally are. Don't let, these things harden your heart, the unforgiveness, the bitterness. Don't let that stuff alter who God intended you to be. Because yesterday is a memory. And whether you are 13 or 53, just make the most of the person you are today with the resources you have today.
Hey, this is your boy D. You are here with Never Out of the Fight podcast. It's a podcast that is brought to you to bring different stories, testimonies, life-changing situations that people have been through. Today, I do have a special guest, somebody I've known for a very long time. I have her backstage right now. I'm going to give you a little bit about her. I'm definitely going to read all this because it's amazing what God can do with people. So today I have Miss Jacqueline, the beautiful Jacqueline Winfield. It's a mother, entrepreneur, has her own business, but I'm gonna go into detail. I'm gonna give you a little bit of history about her. So Jacqueline Winfield is a dedicated professional and a community leader who balances her roles as a financial aid advisor, entrepreneur, and mother. She was born in New Orleans, Louisiana. And y'all know what they say about Louisiana. Y'all make sure y'all don't eat the spaghetti. I'm just joking. But anyway, she was raised in Lithia Springs, Georgia. She brings a rich blend of Southern roots and diverse experiences to all aspects of her life. With a bachelor's degree in business administration and a minor in human resources, Jacqueline furthered her education by earning an MBA in digital entrepreneurship in the fall of 2022. There she has worked at the University of Georgia since 2019, where she currently supports students and families as a financial aid advisor. Additionally, owns, now I'm going to jack this up, is a Clara financial tax firm in Athens, Georgia, offering expert tax services to her community. Jacqueline is also deeply committed to family, faith, and community involvement. She serves as a board member for both Encourage Her Academy and the Minority Business and Nonprofit Association. She also actively involved in ministry. She participates in her church's youth ministry leadership team. In her free time, Jacqueline enjoys traveling and spending quality time with her loved ones. I will say this. I was looking at her scriptures. Her favorite scriptures are Habakkuk 2:2 and Jeremiah 2:29 and 11. She embraces her journey with purpose and vision. She is a very humble person. She doesn't like to talk about. I asked her about her awards. She didn't say too much about those, but I know she was awarded with a lot of things. She's served on several boards, and to me, I'm about to bring her up now. So, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Miss Jacqueline. I'm bring her up here. Can you hear me?
Hey, Darius.
Yay. That's what I'm talking about. Girl, I had to get all that out too. I did, did I say now help the people understand what is the name of your tax service? Cause I know a brother jacked that up. I'm
No,
not
you
even
did
gonna
great.
lie.
So it's Clara Financial. Clara
Okay.
Financial, I just believe in clarity. Um, we'll go into all that, but I started my entrepreneur journey as I was investor in TLC, and it was Clarity. So it's spelled the same way, but it had TEA at the end. It was a cleanser.
Okay.
So I try to keep that in line to, the branding. So it
Okay.
was
I
Clara
got you.
Financial for your finances, and then I had Clarity as well.
Okay. So let me ask you about this encourage her. What is encourage her?
So Encourage Her, EHA is a youth development nonprofit organization here in Athens. We cover everything from etiquette to just getting the kids out and exposure. We taking them to, the colleges just to just expose them to different things and the possibilities of, what life has to offer. Even though whatever your background may come from, you still can enjoy, different things. So we try to provide them with opportunities, and just really building a sisterhood is our main focus. Whatever they may need, if that means we have to pull up to basketball games as mentors, if we have to help with homework, whatever it is that we're just an extension of what the parents are already. Because with kids, sometimes you have to have another voice. So we want to be that voice to support parents. So yeah, it's just really a big sisterhood.
So how would one engage or get more information? Because y'all have mentors, correct? Is that something that
Yeah.
y'all do?
Yes.
So how does that mentorship look for the encourage her? I like that. Encourage her.
So are you asking how to maybe get in touch with for like mentorship for your, or how would you become a mentor?
Yeah, how would you become a mentor? What do you need? Is there any type of qualifications or
Yeah,
anything
so
like
you
that
would
that you would?
just reach out to, you can do the website. You can find us on Facebook, um, Instagram. It's encourage, the word encourage, and then
Mhm.
HER. You can find us there. And also encourageheracademy.com.
Okay. So I'm gonna have to go in there and I'm gonna have to add some of that so y'all can see all that because this
Yeah.
is this is amazing. Encourage her.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I like that. All right, all right. So we gonna get started today. I gotta ask you a question first. So if you can meet one person in the world, no matter who it is, no matter what time period it was, who would it be?
If I can meet anyone,
Yeah, if you can have a conversation, a sit down conversation with anybody in the world, um, past, present, whoever, who would it be
it would
and why?
probably be my brother. Um,
Okay.
my baby brother is, I don't know if, first of all, it would just be to give him a hug. So to give you a little
Yeah.
backstory, my brother is was 5 years younger than me.
Hmm.
He at 13 started getting into gangs. He started, just going down the wrong path. And at 17, he ended up in prison for armed robbery. So
Yeah.
they first never went to prison, but they gave him 10 years the first time. So he didn't come home until he was right before his 27th birthday. Um, so if I could have a conversation with him, first of all, to apologize for anything that he thought he wasn't, that he needed to be, and
Hmm.
to let him know that he was enough. I don't know what he was chasing, coming from a single mother's home and, having to be the man of the house, not knowing how to be the man of the house, it just was a lot, I would assume, for him. Probably what bopped him on the head, just because that's what big sisters do. And
Oh yeah.
I literally had a conversation with him probably a week um before what transpired. I had a conversation and just let him know, like, you've been gone 10 years, so people are different. 10 years,
Yeah.
we're talking 2012 to 2000, actually, yeah, 2011 to about 2020. People have changed a lot. Technology has changed and people are just dog eat dog. So we
Yeah.
had
It's
that conversation and he just didn't give himself enough time to develop. So I would just let him know that he was enough, and that, um, like, he was a beautiful person, even though he may not have thought that of himself. And he was chasing whatever, the devil tends to put in our face. Um, but I would just let him know that he was enough.
man. That's why it's important to have these mentorships that you're talking about, like the program that you're discussing right now. I think that is I think that's amazing. Because I think a lot of us need that type of, person to speak out to us and help us when we're down or when we're coming out of a situation. We need somebody to lead and guide us. I know the Bible talks about the Holy Spirit being a guide and a comforter, but when you're not, settled in the spirit or you don't have that, it's always good to have somebody, a big sister, I have you, or somebody, a friend, a good friend, because you know some friends we got, they lead us right down to the wrong path. So, but I'm pretty sure that if you got that opportunity, that would be great. And like I said, we can't change things, but in the great, as the old folks say in the church, the great by and by, we will meet. We will meet again. But I want to kind of, how was your upbringing? As a young lady. Growing up in I know you said you came down to Georgia, to Lithia Springs, down to the dirty South, but how did your upbringing start, being born in New Orleans?
So let's see. I grew up Baptist.
Mhm.
I grew up with my grandparents. My mom was military, so me and she's my baby sister. We're a year apart, but we stayed with grandparents. So I probably stayed with my grandparents probably till about sixth grade before we start kind of going between Georgia and Louisiana. I had probably everything a kid could want up until about the age of 11. My grandparents were very, um, you know, cooking in the backyard, uh,
Dang.
very old school people.
Hey,
We
look,
go
did
to
y'all
church
did
on
they make some
Sunday.
boudin? Because I know folks listen. I know folks listen. I know we supposed to be being inspirational, but
Yeah.
I know folks be talking about the cooking, and I do remember something called boudin. And then, am I
So,
saying that right?
yes, boudin. So,
Okay.
um, what you remember about boudin?
Hey, I remember them boudin. And now, listen, y'all, we adults, but boudin balls, they were, listen, those things were really good. I'm not gonna tell y'all how I got to know that, but they were really good. God blessed me to be able to remember boudin. I don't remember nothing else about Louisiana but boudin. That's it. So it was real good. So I had to put that out there. Y'all say they can cook, so just know that.
So, yeah, I mean, it was so my grandparents both, you know, I was born in New Orleans, but by the time I came around, they had kind of migrated into the country and
Okay.
very small town, um, good boudin.
Mhm. I
And
know that firsthand.
yeah, I mean, I grew up in the church, so that's where I got a lot of my structure from, through ministry and with dance.
Yeah.
I was probably, you always have that one teen girl, one teen guy. Well, I was
Yeah.
little Jackie, I was a teen girl, and then Andre Perry was a teen boy that kind of
Wow.
was groomed in the church. So that's kind of, was my story is a little child until we got into like teenage, and that's when things kind of shift for me, going from my grandparents doing everything to now living with my mom and basically becoming my mom's little helper that
Yeah.
did everything from except for cook. I didn't like to cook. My sister did the
Mm.
cooking, but like I knew how to pay bills with checks at like 12. Like so,
Oh,
just helping my mom, and I think that was a good thing and a bad thing. We can kind of go
yeah.
into that in details because through that experience, I've been able to raise my son the way I feel like a child should, have that freedom. Like I didn't have that
Yeah.
really as a kid because I had to look out for it, which a lot of us in that era did had to look out for siblings and stuff like that. So that's why Jordan is the only child. I let
So
him enjoy his childhood or whatever, but I learned a lot, when I was small.
so you pulled a lot of strength from your background, and in the gospel is what I want to say. In the church.
In the church.
Yeah. No, I was raised in the church too, so that was kind of my background. I was always been a talker. That's why I'm doing a podcast right now, because I can talk. Now, but all jokes aside, but God has found a way for me to minister to people. I've still been doing that ever since I was a child. My first sermon I did when I was 10 years old, called "Why Me?" And I'm still asking the same question, Lord, why
That's
me?
great.
Because I don't feel worthy sometimes, and I know we all don't. But I heard a friend of mine said, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the call. So that's a very powerful statement right there, meaning, that I may not have felt that I was qualified, but through maybe things that I've been going through, he's qualified me. So we're gonna jump right into it. What's like one of the hardest obstacles or situations that you faced in your life, and how did it shape who you are today?
I don't do a lot, but I
Yeah,
think the hardest, most rewarding was probably becoming a mother.
yeah,
Because, and I think that's my pick for like, okay, when it's your life, but when you're talking about, okay, now I ain't even got me together, but now I gotta do something with this one too. So I think that was the hardest but most rewarding thing that probably could have uh, ever happened to me,
yeah,
because I had to kind of break the idea of what I thought family looked like.
yeah.
Um, I had, basically what happened was, and I'm not Jamie Foxx, but what happened was I had to choose my grandchildren over what I had been taught all my life.
Yeah.
Whether that was the independent, I got my kids, don't worry about like that person, or I had to. The other example was, you stay and you fight for your man.
Yeah.
So I didn't like neither one of those. Um, I chose my child. So whatever came, whatever came with that, um, and whatever I felt like was positive and okay, like I'm just gonna have to put this in God's hands. That's what I did. So I just called my family when I crossed the border and just told them, hey, I know what y'all got over there, but I ain't coming back. And if anything
Wow.
is something, I'll give y'all a call and let y'all know I'm on my way. But yeah, I just basically stepped out on faith and came back to Georgia, and I've been here ever since.
Man, man. So how has Georgia been for you?
Um, we've been steady stepping. Like I came back to actually Lithia Springs. For a year, I was in Lithia Springs. Me, my mom, and my son. I ended up starting school because I was like, okay, I'm just going to the military. But then they said, well, you got to sign your baby over, and I was like, I don't trust
Mhm.
nobody,
Hey,
not
Chris.
with my baby. So I ended up going to school, and my mom ended up just kind of taking care of me and him until I can kind of get on my feet. So she went to work. This is before inflation, and $50,000 was enough. That's not the case
Yeah.
anymore. So I I stayed home probably the first maybe 3 years of Jordan's life. Just trying to make sure that the house was good, and I went to school, and the rest is kind of history. Um, yeah, I just stepped out on faith, but
So, does you helping out and encourage her, is that any indication of some of the things, or is that something that you, how can I say, desire to do based on things you have been through your childhood?
yeah, I think encourage her is definitely a purpose move. Um, and it's crazy because I'm having these conversations, like you say, I'm still trying to figure out the why thing, and why me, and I think that's a question that's never gonna like stop, like, cause it's life is building blocks. Like you might have experienced something at 25 that you really can't apply till 30. So
Yeah.
encourage her is definitely, I want to stand in the gap for people, children, females. I mean, I have a son, so I'm very passionate about the boys, but I have a connection with the girls too. And I want to, be, I didn't tell my mom, some of the things I had experienced. I told a friend, and, that even spiraled. So yeah, I want to be someone that somebody like myself could come to and say, hey, these are the things that are happening to me. How do I deal with it? Because even as a 35-year-old, I still look for like a guide, somebody to give me some kind of mentorship or bounce an idea off of. So I want our kids to be comfortable now being like, oh, I have a mentor for that, if
Yeah.
it's business, oh, it's nothing wrong with having a mentor. You did not come here knowing everything. So it's okay to go and ask for advice. So yes,
So,
encourage her is definitely my way of saying, hey God, like make me available for the
yeah.
next.
So do you wish you would have had somebody that could have kind of guided you when you were younger?
Hmm. I think God has always kind of left a ram in the bush for me.
Yeah.
It may not have he may not have given me exactly what I needed, but he showed me what I may not have needed. So it was up to me to kind of make the choice. Like, okay, um, I think through all that I've been through, uh, he always sent something or someone to cover me in that season to kind of hold me over till my next. So, so yeah,
Man, that's good. I like that ram in the bush. I always
he
talk about
always
that
threw me
'cause,
a hook. Like,
hey,
okay, you might be like for air, but you ain't gonna drown.
man, yeah, we definitely need it from time to time because, like the Bible talks about the similar situation that you were experiencing, somebody else
Mhm.
in the faith is going through the same thing. And that's why these are so important. That's the reason why I wanted to bring you on the show because I know we talked offline about things you experienced when you were younger, and we're gonna dive into that. But the word says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So, um, I believe that sharing your story is somebody out there that's going through a similar situation and that just is at the verge of giving up. And seeing you here today and knowing all of the things that you have been through and how it came about and whatnot is amazing that you're still here. I know we're all still on a journey, but to be where you are right now and to have the the wherewithal to sit here and be giving your testimony here in a second about what you have been through. I think that's amazing. I really do. So yeah, but think we can definitely say that God is still in His grace. That's one thing I remember. His grace is sufficient for us, even though we may be going through hell and hot water. His grace is sufficient. So if we can just hang on to him. And, I know trials and tribulations come, but if we can, hold on to his unwavering hand, and we will be fine. So I do want to kind of, shift gears right now and kind of give a little background into your story, as a young lady, going through what you went through. Just talk to, you know, just share what it was that you experienced when you was a child. All right, I'm back. Had a little camera issue there. This thing is very sensitive. But we're back. But I do want to touch on that. Like I said, I do believe this is your first time actually giving this testimony or sharing your story.
Yeah, out loud. Yeah.
Man. So yeah, and then I was getting ready to say that this is the first episode of Never Out of the Fight, and it is entitled "The Strength to Overcome." And we know that that strength comes um, from me, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. It says, "For I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." So that was what I kind of harped on and based on for this. And but for this to be the first episode, and this would be the first time you saying out loud that you're actually giving your testimony or your story, is that's truly amazing.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for, being brave and having the courage and grit to come on here to share this story so you can help somebody else that may be going through a similar situation. So we're gonna dive back into, so you said at about 11 years old you were molested by your stepfather.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And before we start there, I do want to tell you thank you, because I think, like, I've been to therapy, and people have told me how resilient I am. And, I have, you know, programs and nonprofits that I'm a part of. But I think I just realized this week that I never gave that girl a voice. I never gave that 11-year-old girl a voice. I just think, just by covering things up and people pleasing, um, it's validated me. But I think I just noticed this last week, actually. Like, I do stand in the background a lot. I don't really like. I wouldn't say shy, but I don't really like to be in the forefront of things. And I
Yeah.
think, and I think that's a confidence thing, right? But I just really I feel like this is my way of giving.
So you're saying you wanted to give this 11-year-old girl a voice?
Yes. So, I just feel like no matter how much how many degrees you have, no matter how many boards you stand on, or you know, I had got into a system of just people pleasing and performing, right?
Yeah.
Just top of my class, all these things. But when it was time to show up, I noticed that I always, like, I don't tell people what I've done. And people say, well, who are you? Or, what you, all I would say is, well, I work for the University of Georgia, but I don't tell them nothing else. And
Yeah.
I think that's a defense mechanism, um, because I don't want people to ask me questions or to be seen. I just kind of stand in the background. Um, but I think this has given me an opportunity to give my 11-year-old self a voice, and not,
Yeah.
um, like, you can save and be there for as many girls, as many mentees as you would like. But when are you going to go back and recognize yourself? You recognize that 11-year-old that she hurt, um,
Yeah.
so I think I want to thank you for actually inviting me to this, even though, it's a lot. But I think this is gonna be what I actually needed.
Yeah. But God knows what we all need. Um, like I said, initially when I started Never Out of the Fight podcast, and I was brainstorming, it had nothing to do with what I'm doing now. I wanted to give the opportunity, because I was a law enforcement officer, SWAT. I wanted to give people the opportunity from that line of work to come and tell their stories about how they have overcome the different challenges on the job. But God said, no, that's not how you're going to do it. Everybody has a story,
Hmm.
and you're going to use the platform to allow them to tell their story, so that way healing can come from them telling their story. People can be saved, healed, delivered, and set free right here on this podcast. And I'm open for it. I'm like, God, do what you want to do. That's why the devil already been trying to stop us from recording this right now. We've been having technical difficulties. I rebuke you right now in the name of Jesus. And we're going to have a good show. So, I really do thank you for saying that, because a lot of people may not have like I watch a lot of different podcasts from time to time, and they have a different reach.
Hmm.
I don't want to ever be I know this is where God takes it. Wherever God takes this podcast is where he takes it. I hope it blesses somebody. I hope your story actually blesses somebody. I don't care if nothing but one person calls in and says, or even put some in the comments and say, hey, and I appreciate her telling her story because it helped me. I went through a similar situation, when I was a child, and it gives them the courage to come out and speak and say, what it is that they were going through, so that way they can find some form of healing, and really, trusting and relying on God. I always say God, but I'm talking about Jesus God, because, I said that in one of my little clips that I did. I'm not talking about no regular old idol God. I'm talking about Jesus God, because it's a difference. People refer to God as, he can be the devil, because they said in the word, he was the God of this world. So, but I want to thank you again for coming on here in the first episode. So you breaking ground right here in multiple different ways. And I believe that's the reason why God wanted me to choose you first. Is because I didn't know this was the first time, honestly. Now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, I never knew that you have never told your story out loud. And it takes a lot of, man, one, faith to come up here and believe that, God is going to help somebody through you, and then to be able to tell your story and become vulnerable before really the world. So that's a healing within itself. So I really do appreciate you coming on here and sharing this story. So we're gonna jump back to Miss Jackie. So at 11 years old, that took place. Where were you at were you here in Georgia, or were you back in Louisiana?
So yeah, I was actually, what's crazy is me and my mom was laughing a few years back. So Athens, Georgia is kind of where my life got a little shaken up. And that was the first
Yeah.
time, the molestation took place. And Athens is kind of where he put me back together. I work for the university full time. I've learned so much. I went through mostly all of my schooling, from my bachelor's, my MBA, all of that took place right here in in Athens. So um, I feel like, are you still there, Darius? Okay. Okay. I feel like even if, sometimes God do uh take things that people can say, "Oh, that's gonna be bad," or he could have put in my memory that, "Oh, well, that happened to you there," or, but no, it'd be some of the same people, the same places that the devil had meant for bad, that I actually was able to say, "No, that's not going to be the story of that place or that person or that thing."
Yeah.
So yeah, all of my heartache kind of happened in Athens, but I've been able to accomplish so many different relationships in Athens, to kind of make up for the bad that happened, shoot, almost 20 years ago. So
Wow. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying though. If you really think about it, it's becomes a major struggle sometimes when you're going through things like that. But if you, I just want to go back to you saying that he took you back to Athens. Okay. One thing that I look at that is that you were able to go back to a place that caused you so much hell, and you to thrive there. Because he said, "Fear not, because he has overcome the world." We should be of good cheer because he has overcome. And knowing that he has overcome is a great thing, and it gives us the strength to move forward in our life with things that we may have been going through at a time like that. So he took you back to the very place where you were struggling at, or where things took a different turn for you. At,
yep.
I would say. I think that's powerful within itself. So moving forward from there, were there any other situations like that took place as far as the molestation?
So yeah, so molestation seems to have it seemed to have followed me, which was crazy because, you know, before that, I hadn't really heard too much of that. Like my grandfather kept us in a bubble. So um we were rainbows and unicorns for a long time.
Man.
We didn't think that they had scary monsters or none of that, in the world. I probably didn't learn that until I was about 19 years old. That, oh, it really is bad people out here. Um, so before that happened, my mom, like I said, I didn't tell my mom. We moved to Lithia Springs, closer to Atlanta, and never told her. I started dating and I ended up telling my boyfriend that, hey, this happened.
Yeah.
And his father was a minister. So I, he was like, well, how I met him was through probably, prayer. A friend of a friend just said, hey, you know what? I know this person that you can probably talk with to help you through some of the things that you're going through. And
Yeah.
he put me in contact with his dad. But long story short, his dad ended up being was the second person that ended up violating me
Wow.
in that way. So now this time I'm confiding in, you know, someone else. My mom doesn't even know at this point that this has already happened to me. But to get the monkey off his back, when it came out, um, the minister was just like, why would I do that to her when I know that her stepfather did that? So now at this time, my mama is just losing her mind. Like, what do you mean?
Man.
Um, so by this time I'm 13. Um, and it was a lot. So we ended up being shifted again, in this a kind of a custody battle between my mom and my grandmother. And we moved to Louisiana, for a couple years. Um, but um, it ended up happening a third time, because Jack's so mature and she can watch the kids and at that time. But these babies is being grown and these grown men, and at the time, at 13, I've always been kind of shapely. So, and at that
Yeah.
time, 13 was 13 years old. I don't even know why a grown man would be looking, or whatever. But we were very much kids, t-shirts and it's not like the new 13-year-old.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it happened for a third time. I was asked to babysit a relative's kids. And well, not a relative, a relative of mine, her fiance's children. I was asked to babysit. Um, Going through everything that we were going through with the custody battle, I I was like, it was a good opportunity. They lived in Florida, it'll be fine. Well, it wasn't fine. I ended up uh, being molested again in that situation.
So
Um,
you so y- so let me get this correct. So
uh-huh.
you you are let's backtrack a little bit. So one, you mentioned that your friend's father, which was a minister,
Uh-huh.
ended up being the second, person that violated you. I want to, the reason why I want to touch there is because, I see how people can lose, I want to say lose faith in God, but, I just think that part is tough. I really think that is tough. Hold on one second. We're going to do that.
Sure.
So I do want to get back to what we were just saying about how, I know I kind of stopped you. We've been having these issues with this camera, and the audio. I think I'm running too much stuff on here, but um, as we go back, you said that your friend's father, um, was the second person who violated you. And I was kind of mentioning before I stopped it and fixed the audio and the camera. Uh, I can understand how people, tend to lose sight of God and lose a little bit of faith when they have somebody that is a minister uh, of the gospel that takes advantage. We hear about that so much, how people who minister the word, they end up taking advantage of the very ones they're sent to help, and they provide help in the wrong ways. So how does that make you feel about about that situation, being the fact that he was a minister, and what did it do to your relationship? I know you said you was brought up in the church, but how did that affect your belief in God?
Well, at that time, my mom was not really, uh, we wasn't going to church every weekend and things like that. So I don't think it really had an effect on my faith at that point. It
Yeah,
did make me question like people, and motives, and people are saying that this, but they're out here doing that. So I think that's when I really started to see, okay, it's some people out here that are just, they frauds. And at
yeah,
13, it just started to give me a real reality check of who people are, but I don't really think it made me question God at that point.
right. So, so let me ask you this: if I know you say it didn't make you question God at that point, but how did it make you feel knowing that this is supposed to be 13 or not? You know what a pastor or minister is. How did that make you feel about that during that time period? Like, that's a minister.
I don't care what you put, what kind of name you may put on it or whatever. It just, for me, when a person show you who they are, you just have to believe them. Now I'm 13, I can't really go out and say that, but I just feel like, you know, I had enough sense to know that everybody is not who they say they are. And I'm probably still dealing with that to an extent because it's made me very, um, I'm very selective about who I
Yeah,
have in my space and get into, I don't even know if I would say getting to know people, but um, it definitely makes me selective because you can put a title on anything, but are you doing the
yeah,
work? That's kind of, I think that's my adult self saying, are you doing the work? You're saying you're a minister, you're saying you're for the kids, you're saying you're this business person. Like, what are you doing to develop that? Or are you just because that'll buy you trust, you say, oh, I'm doing this, doing this and that. Um, so I don't think I really began to question it. It just,
yeah. That
I
still
hadn't at
has to
that
be.
point. I don't think I had seen any real genuine church folks.
Yeah,
Um, all of them had some kind of ulterior motive of why they were in the church, and I didn't see the church kind of moving forward. It was kind of a game.
yeah. That's sad. I heard a minister talk about, it was a guy that was, he wanted to be a Christian, and he said he would have been one had he not met one. And that's bad, because the example that we set as far as being Christian and believers, I think we set a bad example. I mean, I get that we all have things in our lives that that we endure and we go through, and all that, but it's tough when you have somebody like that comes into your life and professes to be a minister or anything like that, and then you are therefore victimized by that person. And we're gonna stop here for a second, right there. Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, I like that a lot better. So um, I just wanted to get back to that. So being the fact that he was a minister, that I know that's tough. Being the fact that you know, when they're supposed to be giving you the word and giving you what you need, it turns out that they violate you, and that has to be hard. So how did that make you feel about being that was your friend's father? How did that affect your relationship with your friend?
Um,
Um,
I think
I
he
think
still
he
deals with that
still deals with that
today.
Yeah,
today.
Um,
Um,
so I think it was a lot for
I
him
think it was a
initially.
lot for him
If I'm
initially.
remembering
If
everything,
I'm remembering everything.
um, and
say that again.
so if you,
So I wanted to get that clear. How did it affect your relationship with your friend, being the fact that that was his father, and he's the one that told you that you should talk to him?
yeah. So I think he kind of had to get his thoughts together, initially. Uh, but
Mhm.
it, I honestly don't date currently because I don't know the guys I dated from probably the age of 13 to 25. Let me see, I might be going too far. But let me see, at 13 to at least I would say
13.
about 22, 23, they were natural protectors.
Yeah,
So even at that tender age, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, anybody that violated me, showed they, even if it was just conversations or going to check and say, hey, you did this to her, XYZ. So I always felt a sense of protection. Uh, but he didn't know how. Like, this is my dad you're talking about. So um, a conversation definitely was had, and things were, I ain't gonna say tables were turned over, but they definitely it caused a lot of confusion
yeah,
between him and his father, between my mom, and just everybody that had a role in this. It was a lot.
yeah,
Like, I ended up moving to Louisiana soon after that. Um, but yeah, I think to this day it still affects him. It's not. I
yeah,
mean, he could talk to me. It'd be 2, 3 years later. He's still gonna bring up. We still gonna have to play that all the way back, like, and apologize.
yeah,
But it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. Even though, I mean, if a person is telling you, "I'm a doctor, I can fix you. I can help you," you're gonna
yeah,
go to a doctor. If he's out here perpetrating as a minister, you think you're doing the right thing. So I just hope that he would eventually forgive himself for that, because that wasn't his charge.
yeah. Forgiveness is a crazy thing because that's one thing I was talking to somebody about today is how do we start the the element of true forgiveness? I know that we say that we have forgiven, but do we truly forgive? Because sometimes, like you said, he brings it up all the time, and that may be something that does bother him. But I would tell you this, that true elements of forgiveness is when that thing no longer bothers you. Like let's say somebody stole your pink pony, your unicorn, or something like that, and you know that you say, hey, look, don't worry about it, I forgive you. But every time you see that person, man, you want to flip some tables over on them. So that is not, we gotta,
Yeah.
I know it's hard, but healing is, when healing starts before forgiveness, I believe, because we can say we forgive, but we know within our heart, it says God judges the intents of our heart. We know whether we forgive that person or not because we hold on to it, and it'll been, like you said, it's been years. for your friend. It's been years for him. So, you got to think about that. That's a tough thing.
Yeah.
And to go through that, you saying that you don't know if he's listening to this right now. He's watching it because we done talked about it already, so people don't know what we done talked about. I had to do my research. So, but if he is listening, he's watching, he's going to see this. And what you said is that it's not his fault. I mean, that may speak volumes to him. So, they only can hope that he gets the healing that he needs, as well as you get the healing that you need. So that's why we're doing this. I want to open that up and see how that one went good. We ain't have no interruptions,
Okay.
and I don't want to speak it, but we've been going good here for a few. And I just want to give, the father the kudos for that, because I definitely want this to be amazing. I don't care, I do care how this turns out, because, for this to be the first show, I know we was going to have some technical difficulties, but at the same time, this has been great. I think that, sharing this is going to be amazing. So we're going to keep going. So you said that, moving past your friend and then his father's situation, how did the third incident take place?
Okay, so before we get to while we're on the forgiveness piece,
Yeah.
I just want to forgiveness has always been easy for me. It's just who I am. As it naturally comes to me. I feel like, and then I think what I heard the first time, forgiveness is for you and not for the
Mhm.
person. I think that really stuck with me. Because I feel like you can't carry around all that anger and bitterness, and I absolutely hate bitterness. Uh, you can't carry that stuff around because it's so heavy.
Yeah.
So I don't know what any of molesters are. I have no clue what any of them are doing in life. I did run across my stepfather once, and he was home. I'm just randomly riding down Hawthorne, uh, in Athens, and I was like, "Oh, that looks like my stepdad," and it absolutely was. And I kind of told him the story, uh, of where his kids were, where I had just finished my associate's degree, and what the power of manifestation. I just wanted to show him my. It probably was a month after my first graduation. I just really wanted to show him that picture, because you were the first, you opened the door for a lot of other people to come behind you and hurt me. But this is what came
Yeah.
from that. And that seed that you left for me, I'm, excelling and doing all these things, but your children are suffering. I'm not biologically yours, but I have a brother that's facing 10 years in prison. I have a sister that is, just had a daughter. She's going to prison for armed robbery. No, my brother was armed robbery. My sister was a drive-by shooting. So it was just a lot of chaos, and it seemed like I was still like, okay, I'm gonna thrive. I'm thrive. I'm thrive. I'm gonna be okay. And I don't even think my okayness was for myself. It was for them. It was to say, okay, y'all did this to me, and guess what? I still made it. Y'all, that happened to me, and I still made it. So that's when I say you have to kind of check: are you doing all these successful things? Are you doing that for yourself, or are you doing that for, to acknowledge what happened to you, or are you really doing it for the people that hurt you, to show them that no matter what you try to do to me, you have to get to the bottom of that? Because even myself, I don't feel like I fully have gotten to the bottom of that, because I've just been doing busy work. But it's one thing to do busy work and actually do the healing work. We know
Yeah.
that Black people are resilient. We know
Yeah.
how much we've had to fight and all these things. But eventually we have to do some healing. And that's the part that I want to get through. And I believe that, spirituality, religion, um, God can help with that, but you have to allow that.
Yeah, you do. You have to you have to open yourself up to it because here recently, the biggest thing I've been focusing on is casting all my care upon Him, for He cares for you. That's what the word says. I truly believe that now. Because it's a lot of things that I've been going through myself, but that one thing that you said is what is the reason that I'm doing that? Why am I doing that? And one thing that you said that kind of struck me, that I've been on this binge right now with God on ministry and healing and deliverance. It is, you said there was a seed planted,
Mhm.
and when you think about that, the seed, just like God has a garden and He wants us to sow seed. He talks about the sower sows the word, right? And the word is seed. His word is seed, and it will go out and then do what He sent it forth to do. But also the devil, the enemy, he got seed too, and it comes through your thoughts. It says, cast down every imagination and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. We got to make sure we do that, because that is a powerful thing. I remember, my grandmama used to say the devil, the idle mind is the devil's playground, but a hurt soul
Yeah.
hurt is one too. I don't think a lot of people realize that when you have a hurt spirit, or I want to say your spirit man is hurt, because if you are a believer, your spirit man is perfect. That's what it says in the word. You have the fruit of the spirit, and the fruit of the spirit is love, joy, peace, gentleness, meekness. All those things that it talks about there is amazing. So I don't want to say your spirit man, but I would say a broken soul, because your soul and encompasses your mind, your intellect, and your emotions. So that's a big thing. So I want to say that you mentioning that part about seed is a very that's a very tough thing right there, when people plant seeds, and sometimes them things take root and grow in your life.
Yeah. I think that I've been able to, and I'm learning. It's been a rough week, but I think I know that I'm growing, because I used to start like forgiveness was my thing. But
Yeah,
I've been wrong as late as this week, you know, and I didn't go to forgiveness because forgiveness kind of require you to be hurt in some kind of way. Like
yeah,
that means somebody may have wronged you, and you have to be like, okay, I'm a forgive. Okay. But when I went to empathy first, I knew that I was growing, because
uh,
I done forgiven you before you even thought to wrong me. So that's
yeah.
like, I know that is definitely God's work, because
Oh yeah,
He's working through me. He's working on me. And He may have been working through me to give them some kind of epiphany, and I just, was a byproduct. And God said, I already took care of your heart. I already took care of your finances. I already took care of any of that was going to hurt you in this situation, but I had to teach them a lesson. So
uh,
when I went to empathy before I didn't you didn't hurt me. Like, I feel like I'm in a better position, because God already told me this was coming a week ago when I got knots in my stomach, and I didn't know why I was overwhelmed. I'm about to take you through
uh,
something right quick, but just chill out, okay? Like, you gonna be all
yeah,
right. And I empathize with that person before, I just, and I'm glad that I'm here, because 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I could have never handled. I would have cried my little self to sleep. But now, with prayer and the way God is shifting in my life, I mean, just as He's always been there, but He definitely taken me to a new level, of just trust. Like, trust is my thing, with
so
people, and just, you don't even have to love it. Do we trust each other?
yeah,
Um, if you trust, I feel like, if you trust God, and if you trust your husband, if you trust your children, I feel like the love is gonna come. But
yeah.
you have to be able to put that trust first and set that foundation of the expectations of, hey, we locked in.
So look, that's another. I mean, this is good. I'm not even gonna lie. So you just said something. You said set expectations. I don't think that we as believers sometimes set expectations for God because he tells us to. Sometimes we leave out that aspect of it. We should expect the goodness of God. So I want you to do me a favor, right? I want you to do this. You said your favorite scriptures, Jeremiah 29:11. Can you open it up and tell me what that says? What does Jeremiah 29:11 say?
Okay, so that is the I know the plans I have for you. Um,
Mhm.
and that's to prosper you, so you won't fail. But I would like to read it verbatim for you.
Yeah. Go
Um,
ahead, jump in there, girl. We
so yeah,
got
it
time.
is for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. I plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future.
Mm, 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 mm. So what version is that? Because we gonna tap into some versions. I told you we're gonna have some scriptures up in here too.
Yeah,
'Cause,
New International.
okay, and we gonna go see. I'm a old saint. You know what I'm saying? I'm a old saint. So we gonna go into let's see where we gonna dive into. I'm gonna see what Jeremiah 29:11. Let's go on down in here and see what it says. Thus saith the Lord. It says, and this is the New King James. You be trying to do that new. They got the New Age stuff going on now, but this ain't New Age. It's just the New King James version. It says, "For I know the thoughts that I think towards you," says the Lord, "thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope." So, you know, it's that scripture is powerful within itself. He knows his thoughts. He says that his thoughts are not our thoughts, neither are his ways our ways. Just as the heavens are high from the earth, so is his thoughts from our thoughts and his ways from our ways. So, I take that to say, when he talks about he knows the thoughts that he has towards you, thoughts of good things for good, for peace and not of evil. So God don't have no thoughts of evil to put that on you. Sometimes we go through things and the enemy is set out to kill, steal, and to destroy. And God knows the call that's on your life. Likewise, the devil knows the call that's on your life. And again, that's why we was having all them technical difficulties because he don't want this to go out. Like this is power. He said, "Where two or more are gathered together in His name, there He is in the midst." And I believe that right now He is in the midst of both of us, even though we might be miles apart. But He's right here in the midst, and He's going to get the glory out of this because I don't care how this come about. I don't care how at first I worry about the video and worry about this, but God is going to let this thing shine because it's not the presentation that's going to gain people and to it's going to be God's Holy Spirit. It's going to be Him, and this word is still going to go out and it's going to affect somebody's life. So that is a powerful scripture. Now I do want you to, since we on your scriptures right now, we're going to take this little turn and we're going to jump right back in. But Habakkuk 2 and what was it? Habakkuk 2:2. Am I
Mhm.
am I on point?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Can you
the
can you
King James
no,
version, and the
yeah.
Lord answered me and said, "Write the vision and make it plain upon tablets, that he may run that read it."
Okay. So I want you to explain to me what that means for you.
So for me, I'm a journaler. So, and I believe that God can give you vision, and it can come from Him. So when He said, "Write it, make it plain," so whether I die, the next person can read and say, "Hey, this is the vision. This is where we're trying to go." So it'll never, if you write it down and make it plain for the next, that vision is never going to die.
Mm, I like that. I like that. It's almost like when he said, "Write His words on the tablets of your heart."
Mhm.
And I know when we talk about the heart, we always point here. when we saying that, oh, it's in my heart. But when he says plant, when he talks about, it's that it's a parable that Jesus gave about the sower and sowing the word. But, when it talks about the heart, it says out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Why do you think he always talks about casting down imagination? Because the fertile ground is right here in your mind. It says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So, you are an overcomer. I know that we're still very much, as I always say, no matter the situation, no matter how tough life gets with God, you're never out of the fight. So I know that we're both very much in the fight, and I know you currently are very much in the fight. And it also talks about, see, that's one thing. It says the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent taketh by force. Kingdom of heaven ain't weak.
Mhm.
Also, when it talks about faith, it says faith, fight the good fight of faith. It says for without works. It says faith without works, it's impossible to please God. So you got to do something. You can't just sit and think that it's just going to come to you. So, that's my little Bible for today. I'm about to go in and start preaching, but, but seriously, I really do appreciate you coming on here and telling us this, because it's amazing where you are right now. I know you still are on your healing journey, but know that God is able. He's always been able, always gonna be able.
Mhm.
But I wanted to ask you though, what was a turning point for you where you realized that things could get better,
Uh,
or a breakthrough moment, something that, was there a breakthrough moment that helped you change your course or change the course that you were on?
so I think the breakthrough moment was uh when I was like, okay, I'm really about to do this mommy thing.
Yeah.
Even with that, my son, I had 2 miscarriages before Jordan. Um, and it was like, I don't know. I didn't even like think I wanted kids, but then once I was like, okay, I was pregnant in 2010. I was pregnant in 2011, and Jordan came in 2012. But um,
I'm gonna look that up. Go ahead. Keep talking. Keep talking.
I realized, okay, I actually do, like, I want a child. So when I was with Jordan, the doctor told me at, I think, 11 weeks maybe, that I was gonna
Yeah.
miscarry again for the 3rd time. So I went to my mom. I was like, okay, I think it's a boy. Hey, and I really, really want a boy. So my mom came. She was living in Georgia, uh, and I didn't even tell her like I was pregnant. I was like, you just need to get to Louisiana fast. Like my
Well,
brother
that's
had
good
just went
one.
to prison, but my mama stuck with me, and she's still sticking with me. She downstairs. I can't get rid of her.
Hey, listen. I wanna interject something real quick, because
Yeah.
while you were doing it, the Lord kind of laid it on me. Um, it says in the Bible, the number 12 is widely considered a symbol of completeness, divine order, and perfect government, most notably represented by the 12 tribes of Israel and Jesus' 12 disciples, signifying a foundation for God's chosen people. So you said it was the 12. What you say about 12 now? What, say that one more time?
2012 is when I actually became a mom.
2012, when you became a mother.
Yeah.
So God was setting things in order.
Yep.
That's what he was doing. He said it's a symbol of completeness. So, it said that Jesus was slain before the very foundations of the earth, meaning that God is Alpha and Omega, beginning and end. So he knows our beginning from our end. So with that, you may not feel complete yet, but in the spirit, it's already complete. You don't even have to worry about it. It's already done. When Jesus died on the cross, he said it was done. So your suffering is over.
Yes.
So
So
I'm just telling you, completeness. He said complete divine order, putting things in order, putting it in perspective. You know what I'm saying? So, that's what I want to bring up, because that number 12 means something. 2012, you became a mother.
yeah.
So the devil meant things for evil for you, but God said he'll turn it around for your good.
So anything that, was out of order, uh, and not a part of I wanted I wanted to be the change I wanted my kids to see. I wanted to protect him in a certain way. I wanted him to be a child. I didn't want him to have to worry about, being a big brother or, whatever. I just wanted him to be my baby. That's it. And he was a good baby, like a great baby, actually. Um, so anything outside of that vision, I just kind of cut it off.
So were there moments that you felt like giving up? And you know, so let me say that. So was there moments during those times where you was going through those different trials and tribulations? Were there a time that you felt like giving up? And if so, like what kind of pushed you through? I know we always say God pushed me, but were there any other things that you leaned or a person, a friend or anything that you leaned to get you through those tough times?
So I think when I was going through all that, it was always people. Like I believe relationships are your biggest wealth. So from the time of being in the 4th grade with Miss K Randolph, I remember when she gave me, I'm still waiting on a teacher to give my kid that spark that Miss K Randolph gave me in the 4th grade when she said, "Oh no, you too close. You gonna get these accelerated reader points." And she just, um, it's always been people. Um, and I think that's why I parent Jordan. Like I try to expose him to things, because I remember I didn't want to come to Athens with my mom before all that stuff happened. I was having a grand old time in the country with my grandparents. But when I was exposed to taking a trip with, the end of the year trip was like 3 days long, going to Jekyll Island, I was like, oh well, the city of Athens, because Athens is really not the city, but Athens ain't so bad.
Yeah,
Athens
Athens
is the
definitely
country, but to me, it was the
ain't
city.
the
When you
city.
come from a place that only got a couple red lights and a Walmart,
Yeah,
Athens gonna take a big
that's
time. So,
Walmart. Yeah.
but yeah, honestly, and if I could, I really thought about this today, and if I could just give everybody that I could think of in 35 years. So bear with me, okay?
Nah, you good. Go ahead.
Okay, so of course, any guy that I was dating between those ages that I mentioned, because when I tell you they walked me through a lot of things to be young men, um, they they were naturally protectors. They didn't even know what to do. But from the age of 13, just listening to me and not violating me, it was a it I right. But I mean, Miss Angie, Miss Jacqueline, Miss Jamie, Grandma Mabel, Grandma Jackie, Miss Sharon, Taylor, Dark Kid Monet, uh, the, my dad, Ronnie Davis, my grandpa Black, Uncle Jay, Courtney, Red, Desmond, Quentin Gomes, Martina Irvin, Kiera, Andre Stacy,
People. So we're gonna say this. So your major inspiration came from who?
my main inspiration was my mom. And I think my mom, because that was another situation where the place that I may have felt protected or whatever was the same place that I went back to for the help, for things to change. Um, so yeah, my mom's from is definitely my inspiration. Good, bad, and never. Like I can that lady is a piece of what whether it's what I need to do or what I don't need to do. I can definitely right through, right through.
Man. So that's so even though you know how we talked before that your mom is still there. She like what you call it? Like you can't get rid of her.
Thank you.
But you know, you don't want to. Like I tell people a lot of times, you only got one, and you know they've done the best that they can do.
Yep.
What they know what to do at the time, and as you get older, you start realizing that you know they might not have had the best either. You know, it's a lot of things that are generational during that time period. So you may not have had the best quality, but I will say this that she tried. Your mom gave every effort, you know, and trying. And I know that because you know, just from hearing what you talked about and knowing her personally myself,
Yeah.
I know that Mama D don't play. You know what I'm saying? Ma- Look, Mama D don't play. Hold on. I'm gonna switch this to play. So we were just, you know, I know we're back from that. We had to take a brief intermission, but we are back. But I was just talking. She was saying that her mom has always been there. You know, she the itch you just can't scratch. You know, and she just ain't going nowhere. She said the biggest influence in her life has been her mom. You know, and I was just saying how amazing that is to still have her there. Because I know Mama D. You know, it ain't too many. You know, they it's a lot of Mama D's in the world. You know, but this one don't play, and I know that firsthand, y'all. I'm telling y'all, the woman don't play. He was in the military, probably a sniper. So we you know, the woman don't play. But um, you know, I wanted to ask you this, because I think this is important. What lessons have you learned about yourself though during this time period? Like what through the experiences that you may have been through, what have you learned about yourself?
What have I learned about myself? Trust me. If you have, I've always felt like I've had, you know, a direct like connection with
Right.
God, in some capacity, even if that was just, through my praise dancing. I've always had something that just made me a little bit different. So I would say trust yourself, uh, because, you know, God didn't lie to me. Like I can't unsee what he showed me. Um, so I would say probably start early. If God placed it in your heart and it seems like everyone else is kind of going against it, it's okay. Start it anyway. Because I've always kind of had a vision for my life. Um, and that may have, disconnected me from people and things. And one thing that I've learned recently is when God separates, what is that?
Well, so what?
When God separates you from, whatever, like it's not anointed, it's something else.
When we used to talk about like when it talks about how he set you apart.
When he set you apart.
Yeah.
So I'm finally to an age to where I don't fight that. I do not
Like,
fight that.
but
Because
sometimes you gotta realize you set apart for a reason. You know, um, to be used. Sometimes we try so hard to fit into the mold. Like me personally, I've done it. You know, try to fit into something and been running for something the whole time. This is, you know, I can't fight who God called me to be.
uh
Um, I've been a minister myself. You know, in 2010, you know, I became a minister.
yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that. This is one thing that I told God that from here on out, I'm living for you. Because you know when you don't, you find yourself running in circles. And he gonna bring you back to it. It said gifts and callings come without repentance. So, you know, I have to walk in my calling. And I believe this is part of it, allowing people to share, giving their testimonies and their resilience, because I know you said people said you were resilient before, but it was for a reason. There's a reason why, you know, a lot of things break off when you dance for God. You said you was a praise dancer.
Mm-hmm.
See, listen, they said people need to start dancing like David danced. David, I believe he come right out of his shoes, out his clip. Whatever he had on, he was coming out of it to give God glory. So I'm just telling you, I just think that if you just allow God to use that, because sometimes there's healing in that, you can express yourself in different ways through praise. Praise
Mm-hmm.
is what causes things to break loose, to break whole. So right now I give God all the honor, glory, and praise for allowing us to be able to do this tonight. Um, so what I would say is, were there any resources or practices, something that that were particularly helpful to you during that time when you was going through all that?
So helpful resources that I think made a difference in my life was
Yeah,
probably um like just moving, like whether that's through dance, you know, going to the gym, you know, just taking a walk outside, just keep moving,
yeah,
get some sunshine. Um, I don't think then I really had the power of choice, but now as an adult, I'm able to say, okay, this is a resource and it's a free resource. Meditation, prayer, dance, people, being connected. Who are you connected to? You know,
yeah,
relationships, and journaling and reading. Um, I've always been a reader for sure, but then I started kind of journaling and putting my thoughts on paper. That's why I like, that Bible verse. You have
yeah,
to write it down, like, because I have where I've written my life, what I wanted for my life back in 2018, and then I'll find the paper somewhere years later, like where I written something down. I'm like, oh, I can check that off, because you gotta
yeah,
write it down. Like
yeah. You know,
I was just dreaming back then, but now I am doing this and that, and so you have to kind of write those things down. And lastly, as an adult, I do travel as much as, I'm allowed to, because I feel like that's where you get you experience different people and cultures and things like that. And you don't put yourself in a box, you know.
yeah.
You get to see how Hispanics do it. You get to do like, it's just travel is such a blessing. So you can kind of expand your mind.
So what would you say to somebody that's going through a similar situation that you went through? Because it's always, like one thing for them to hear your story, to know that, because one, that's tough. Being molested as a child, and I do want, before you answer that, I don't want to leave out the suicidal. Was it suicidal thoughts, or is it something that, how did
So
that come about?
I attempted a few times.
Mm,
I didn't tell my mom none of this. Like, I didn't tell my mom
mm,
none of this until it was a few years. Um, and that's why I've been able to do those things. I didn't know why they were helping me, but I've been able to help uh other people through those thoughts. So
mm,
again, sometimes it don't be for you. Like, I did go to therapy and I did learn the 5 stages of grief. And even though at that time nobody had died around me, but I had to walk my mama through it when her son, died.
mm.
So I was, probably 20 years old, wondering, like, why, I'm just grieving a relationship, but that same relationship that I was trying to grieve, my mom is now grieving her son, and the same things apply. So it's really transferable if you allow it to be.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
so yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
with,
I think
go ahead.
sometimes he allow you to go through those things so that way you can be, uh, how can you have an effective testimony? A testimony is something that you may experience, and then it will birth through that a some type of inspiration or will for someone else to know that, man, if they went through that, I can do the same thing. You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
that is very powerful. Like for you to go through that, you may be able to speak to several people that have been contemplating suicide, and God may use you to do that. So, but yeah, I really did want to. So what made you want to, or what was some of the thoughts that you were having? Why you even attempted to commit suicide?
I just didn't feel like I belonged well, after the molestation, I just really didn't feel like I belonged. Um, I felt like um, a lot of the things that people around me were going through was because
Yeah,
of poor choices. You know, I'm like, life is not really that hard. Um, that if you guys make better choices, but at this time, I had no control. I'm a child. So
yeah,
I just want I just want to be free. Like I want to be this y'all making choices for me, choices that affect my life, you know. It really went really deep for me to because you have a lot of backstabbing and people that's just doing things because they're hurt, that is affecting these kids that didn't ask to be, didn't ask for none of this. But it's just adults just not making good choices and going at each other, and the kids are being affected. So at that point, I just was like, you know what? I just don't want to be here. Yes, and this has happened to me, and this is not even what we're discussing. We're discussing, well, you did this and you did that, and you would have been a better this and that. At the end of the day, we still ain't talked about this little girl that's hurt.
yeah. And,
So
and so to go back to that, so what would you say to someone? I know that you mentor young ladies. So what would you say to one of the young ladies who you may be mentoring that is experiencing a similar situation that you experience, and they confide in you?
what I would say is definitely, again, people's poor choices are definitely not your fault. Let's start there. Um,
Yeah,
it's not you. Definitely, hey, thank her for coming to me and feeling comfortable to tell me. But we definitely have to talk through this with the right people. Definitely making sure that she has the support that she needs. And then I probably would once we get on a solid something, a solid ground where we're not, we're good, and I probably would tell a person that's been through some of the things that I've been through, um,
yeah,
to try your best to enjoy your now. Like don't let nobody take who you naturally are. Don't let, these things harden your heart. The unforgiveness, the bitterness. Don't let that stuff, alter who God intended you to be. Because
mm,
yesterday is a memory, you know. And whether you are 13 or 53, just make the most of the person you are today, with the resources you have today. So whether that's, an encourager academy, whether that's your grandma, whether that's the church, whatever, make the best of your resources. Because the thing is, I think it's one thing to kind of hope for the things that you don't have. But
yeah,
it's another thing to actually mourn the things that you lost. So
mm,
as you have time, as time is passing and you're upset, at your molester, you're upset at your mama because she didn't parent you right. You're upset for the people that didn't protect you. At the end of the day, we all kind of have to sort those things out, and live to the best of our ability. So that's what I would say.
So we're gonna close this out. I really do appreciate your time. I know we had some little rough patches with this, but I thank you for your time tonight. You really did an amazing job. I know it's a lot more we can go into in reference to your story, and then I will have you back. This ain't the end. It's just the beginning. Because I believe that God is going to allow you to speak to many people and give them your story. Because you know what I'm saying. It's tough to really share something like what you shared tonight and be vulnerable to a whole world. And I think that's, like you said, I think that's God working on you as well, because you're able to get up here and share that, um, and even speak to, even while you're going through, you're saying that you pray that, God allows the person or your friends or whoever to heal as well, even those that have wronged you. So I think that speaks volumes as well. So what I will say is I want you to shout out that group again. What was it? Is Encourage Her,
Encourage
right?
Her Academy founder, Miss Kiara Trammell. She's a
Okay.
beautiful person that has her own story that eventually I know she's gonna. Right now, she's just working and trying to make sure these girls are good,
Yeah.
but we hope that Encourage Her will soon be the next Girl Scouts, new Girl Scouts, however you want to. But we are definitely trying to bring sisterhood and support to the youth.
Okay, well, shout out to Encourage Her. I'm gonna try to get all her information and make sure that I post it on here as well for Encourage Her. If you guys would like to get in touch with Miss Jackie, and I'm gonna get with her and get her information out there too. So if y'all got some bad behind kids that need some mentoring, young ladies, see how they want to do. Hold on, we gonna bag that up. Hold on. But again, like I said, we're closing this out. Okay, what we got going here? Lord have mercy.
It kicked
Let me
me
get
out.
this. Oh, it kicked you out. All right, let me find out which one. Okay, there we go. I got you now. See, I had to boot that out the way. All right, so but we will close this out today. Like I said, if you got some bad behind 12-year-olds or how old the girls got to be to enter the program?
I believe we have the youngest maybe like 5 or 6, maybe,
Man, as
and
early as 5 to 6.
to 18.
Oh, well, I need to send my daughter down there quick. Either get
We
get
have to expand
get her
for
on down there. But if
actually Clayton
y'all wanna
County.
touch base with them. Hmm?
Yeah, this weekend for we have a partnership out there. Saturday we'll be coming up to Clayton County. So
Okay, yeah, go on, come out this way and snatch her up. So if y'all want to get in touch with Miss Jackie, I will, and you in the area. She also has a great tax service. So y'all out there in the Athens area and y'all need to get your taxes done, no matter where you at, and you need to get your taxes done, hit her up, and I will leave her information out there for you guys. Also, again, encourage her, where your child can be mentored by some of the likes of some of the best women doing it. And like I said, Miss Jackie, I know her story. And it's an amazing story. So we just want to thank her for coming on Never Out of the Fight tonight and sharing her story. And remember my saying, I always say, no matter what the situation is, no matter how tough life gets, remember, with God, you're never out of the fight.
If your heart feels heavy and your spirit worn out, you're a fighter ready to rise. The word of God says, and he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly, I will rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. 2 Corinthians 12:9. Welcome to Never Out of the Fight, the podcast where we share how God has turned life's toughest trials into triumphant victories. I'm Darius, and I'm here to remind you that no challenge is too big, no setback too severe. We all face storms, but it's how we weather them that defines us. Here we share stories of resilience, grit, and the unwavering faithfulness of God. So, whenever you feel like giving up, remember, you're never truly out of the fight. Tune in, find your strength, and let's rise together. Because champions aren't made in comfort, they're forged in the fire of perseverance. Keep fighting, and remember, your victory is just around the corner. And remember, you're never out of the fight. If your heart feels heavy and your spirit worn out, you're a fighter ready to rise. The Word of God says, and He said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly, I will rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me." 2 Corinthians 12:9. Welcome to Never Out of the Fight, the podcast where we share how God has turned life's toughest trials into triumphant victories. I'm Darius, and I'm here to remind you that no challenge is too big, no setback too severe. We all face storms, but it's how we weather them that defines us. Here we share stories of resilience, grit, and the unwavering faithfulness of God. So, whenever you feel like giving up, remember, you're never truly out of the fight. Tune in, find your strength, and let's rise together. Because champions aren't made in comfort, they're forged in the fire of perseverance. Keep fighting, and remember, your victory is just around the corner. And remember, you're never out of the fight.